Dear community, dear friends, just want to wish all of you a blessed season of Lent. I just want to give a very short reflection that may help us kickstart this season of fasting, prayer, and almsgiving as we enter in this season of repentance. And I want to read from you from Matthew 9, verse 14 till 17, where it says, "Then the disciples of John came to him, saying, 'Why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but your disciples do not fast?' And Jesus said to them, 'The wedding guests cannot mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them, can they? The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old cloak, for the patch pulls away from the cloak, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins, otherwise the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved.'" I think interesting, I feel, in this question that they ask about fasting is that Jesus says, as long as the bridegroom is with them, they cannot mourn. And then when the bridegroom is taken away, they will fast. So Jesus seems to be using the word fasting and mourning interchangeably. Now, the season of Lent is a season that traditionally we call a 40-day season. And excluding the Sundays of Lent, it is 40 days in preparation for Easter. And these 40 days, of course, mirror the 40 days that Jesus was fasting in the desert, which also relate back to the 40 years that the Israelites spent in the desert when they, through the Exodus, were led out of the land of slavery into the land of freedom, the promised land. And these 40 years was not because it took 40 years to journey from Egypt to Israel, because that would have just taken them a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but it is because when they spent 40 days in the promised land, the 12 spies, 10 of them said, "We cannot take that land." And so God sent the Israelites back basically for that generation to die in the desert, and only the next generation will then enter the promised land. For each day that the spies spent in the promised land, they were sent back 1 year into the desert. And I think this is really the idea of that it is easy to get out of Egypt, but it takes a lot more time to get Egypt out of you. And that's why this season of repentance is really the purpose of that season is to get Egypt out of us, to die to our old way of doing things. We need to fast in the sense of mourning what we are leaving behind in order to truly embrace the new. Because what very often happened in the desert is that the Israelites kind of long back to the times in Egypt. Egypt was still in them. There was still this attachment, even though they were not happy there, even though they were enslaved there, they longed back for some of the things that they were attached to. So maybe in this season of Lent, we can reflect on what are some of our attachments, things that are actually not helpful in our life, things that are sinful or destructive, and somehow we still cling to them because we think that they are helpful. Maybe as we start this season of Lent, and we usually on the first days, we kind of think, what is the Lenten sacrifice that we want to make? What is the areas of fasting that we want to embark on? Let's not just make it random, but I would propose that you think first of what is the area of attachment that you need to let go of. And once you have identified this Egypt in you that you need to mourn, that you need to let go of in order to really embrace a new freedom, then find something you can fast on that is related to this area, so that it will really help you let go of the Egypt in you in order to reach the new freedom that God is promising us. This, I think, is what Jesus means when he says that new wine cannot be put into old wineskins, otherwise the skins will burst. But new wines must be put into fresh wine skins. So let this season of Lent be intentional in order that we identify what is the old we need to let go of and what is the new that we want to embrace. And let's make our fasting intentional so that it helps us on this journey to let go of what is destructive in our life, what is holding us back, in order to really embrace a new way that is the way of freedom, the way of charity, the way of love. Maybe it is an old way of praying that had helped you in the past, but actually is holding you back from a deeper relationship with God. To find this new freedom of prayer that God is inviting you in, a new freedom in certain relationships in your life that have not been free, that have not been helpful. Let's identify what is the old in order to embrace the new. Wishing you all a blessed season of Lent.